"Ma'am, this is your final warning. Hands where I can see them," barked the young SWAT officer, his voice taut with adrenaline. Linda Tanner, 65, her hands burdened with groceries, struggled to respond, her arthritic fingers slow to obey. "Non-compliant subject," the officer yelled, then fired his taser. Roy Tanner, 68, her husband, a decorated yet unassuming retired Special Forces Master Sergeant, watched in horror as his wife convulsed and collapsed. 3 rifles immediately trained on him. He didn't scream. He didn't run. Slowly rising, he locked eyes with the SWAT commander and said 5 calm words. "Call General Rohr right now." Every weapon froze. If you believe real authority doesn't need to raise its voice, type "respect" below. Roy Tanner was the type of man who disappeared into the quiet suburban fabric of Oakwood Drive. Neighbors knew him as the friendly retiree, handy with a lawnmower, generous with kind words, and often heard listening to classic rock while tinkering in his garage. At 68, his hands, though strong, carried the roadmap of a life hard-lived. The calluses came from tools, but also scars, the kind no one asked about. Few understood that beneath Roy's modest exterior was a retired Master Sergeant of the U.S. Army Special Forces, a man who had led elite teams through unimaginable missions, most of which were still classified, and he preferred it that way. His peaceful life with Linda, his rock for 43 years, had been hard-earned. She understood the silence, the nightmares. She had helped him become just Roy again. Their small ranch house was their haven, filled with the aroma of her baking and the lived-in warmth of decades together. Roy volunteered at the VFW, mentored at-risk youth in auto mechanics at the local high school, and stayed under the radar. His past, tucked away in select government databases, was carefully hidden. That Wednesday started like any other. Roy was beneath his neighbor's old Chevy, doing an oil change as a favor. Linda had just returned from the grocery store, arms full. Then came the screech. Tires too fast, too aggressive for their quiet street. Before Roy could slide out from under the car, black tactical vans and armored trucks flooded Oakwood Drive. SWAT officers poured out in full gear, helmets hiding their faces, rifles up. "Police! Search warrant! Everyone on the ground now!" A megaphone blared. Roy emerged slowly, hands raised, grease still on his fingers, trying to make sense of the sudden aggression. "There must be some mistake," he said. A rifle barrel cut him off. "Down! On your face!" an officer shouted. Roy complied. The rough asphalt scraped his cheek, diesel fumes stung his nose. Shouts, radio noise, boots. He was surrounded. His wrists were zip-tied behind him. Then he heard it. "Target vehicle matches description. House secure." That's when Linda pulled into the driveway in their blue sedan. She stepped out, groceries in hand, alarm etched across her face at the sight of her husband surrounded. "Roy, what's happening?" 3 officers pivoted to her, weapons raised. "Police! Drop the bags. Hands where we can see them." Linda froze, paper bags clutched to her chest. "Please, I don't understand." "She's not complying," the young officer shouted, his voice cracking with tension and inexperience. "Ma'am, final warning, drop the bags." Trembling, Linda tried to lower them, but her movement was too slow. "Non-compliant subject," the officer yelled. Then he fired. The taser struck. Roy watched, powerless, as her body seized, groceries scattered, eggs shattered, milk spilled, apples rolled under boots. Linda dropped, a whimper escaping her. A wave of fury surged through Roy, but years of training took over. He didn't scream or struggle. His mind, honed for crisis, went razor sharp. He scanned. The young officer now looked horrified. The SWAT commander, older and watchful, frowned. Roy locked onto him. "Let me up," he said quietly, with a command in his tone that made nearby officers flinch. The commander hesitated, then nodded to cut Roy's restraints. Roy stood, slowly. He didn't rush to Linda. First came control, de-escalation. He walked directly to the commander. 5 words. "Call General Rohr right now." Captain Miller blinked, stunned by the calm confidence of this old grease-stained man. "General Rohr?" he repeated. "Who the hell is General Rohr to you, old man?" A younger officer mocked. "Yeah, save it, Grandpa. We're here for Carlos El Martio Ramirez, major drug trafficker. Warrant says he's in this house." Roy didn't even glance at him. His gaze never left Miller. "This is 124 Oakwood Drive," Roy said evenly. "Your warrant's likely for 124 Oakwood Avenue. Different zip code. Other side of the county. Dispatcher mistake common around here." A pause. "General James Iron Jim Rohr, Chairman of Joint Special Operations Command. He and I go back. You have 2 minutes to contact him before this escalates into a national security incident, and..." Roy's voice dropped, dangerously soft. "You might want to call a medic for my wife. She has a heart condition. If anything happens to her because of your rookie's itchy trigger finger, General Rohr will be the least of your worries." Captain Miller looked at Roy and saw him for the first time, the steel in his eyes, the deadly calm. "Check the address now," Miller barked into his radio. "Medic, get to the woman." He turned back. "If this is a bluff, old man..." "I don't bluff, Captain," Roy cut in. "Not with my wife's life on the line. Left breast pocket." "My jacket." Miller nodded. An officer retrieved Roy's wallet. Inside, alongside a faded photo of Roy and Linda, was a battered military ID. But what froze them wasn't the ID. It was the tiny ankh embossed in the corner. Black ankh clearance. Miller paled. He'd seen that symbol once, in a top-secret briefing. It meant this man was beyond classified, practically a ghost. "Get me JSOC. Priority Alpha," Miller yelled into his radio. "Patch me through to General Rohr. Personal satellite line. Code Black Ankh. Field initiated." The words Black Ankh rippled through the comms. Everyone froze. Rifles slowly lowered. The young officer who tased Linda looked sick. His career had just ended. Roy finally walked to Linda, kneeling beside her. He took her hand gently. "It's all right, sweetheart," he whispered. "It's going to be all right." His glance at Miller was glacial. The next 10 minutes were chaos and reckoning. Dispatch confirmed it. They had raided the wrong house. Ramirez had already been arrested on Oakwood Avenue, 20 minutes earlier. They had tasered the wife of a man who was now being referred to, over encrypted lines, as a national asset of the highest value. A legend in elite circles, then General Rohr himself arrived. Helicopters thundered overhead, black, unmarked. Men in dark suits disembarked, moving with precision. One led the team. General Rohr, unmistakable, walked directly to Roy. "Sergeant Tanner?" he greeted, voice rough with emotion. "Are you and Linda all right, old friend?" "She's been tasered, Jim," Roy said flatly. "By that recruit?" He gestured. The young officer flinched. Rohr didn't speak to him, just looked. And that look shattered the young man's confidence entirely. The federal team took over. Linda was immediately airlifted to a top-tier cardiac hospital. Roy went with her. Rohr remained behind, meeting with Captain Miller and the local police chief. It was brief, brutal. Miller was suspended on the spot. The officer who fired the taser, under investigation. The SWAT team stood down, pending a full review. Wrong address. Excessive force. Elderly woman tasered. Black Ankh operative involved. A catastrophic chain of failure. Those 5 words Roy spoke froze a SWAT team and shook law enforcement, and quietly reached high-level offices in Washington. Thankfully, Linda had no lasting cardiac damage, though she was badly bruised and traumatized. Roy stayed by her side. They returned to their home days later. The driveway was clean, but the memory lingered. General Rohr visited, not as a general, but as Jim, an old friend. He ensured they had everything, including high-level discreet protection in case the Ramirez cartel mistook Roy for part of the raid. Roy Tanner never chased attention. He reacted to protect his wife. He uttered 5 words, a key to a hidden door, and then went back to fixing lawnmowers and mentoring kids, the quiet hero of Oakwood Drive. But the SWAT team and local police would never forget. Because real authority isn't in gear or shouted orders. It's in a life of quiet strength, unwavering integrity, and knowing exactly who to call when everything goes wrong. Subscribe if you believe in the power of quiet heroes, and that 5 words can change everything.